Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 4 college basketball games for Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love the most in college hoops and other sports, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Not a great card in my opinion for Thursday. Definitely some better cards in the future, but here are the 4 games we're going to talk about on the Bank Shot Breakdown. First up, it's Buffalo and Georgia. This one's 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. Buffalo in its last game covered against St. Bonaventure. It was a 10-point loss, but they were getting about 17, 18 points. And it was actually the first against the spread loss of the season for St. Bonaventure. They were undefeated against the number going into that game. Buffalo has now played in about 2 weeks. That game against St. Bonnie's was on December 7th, so definitely well rested, but I still don't love their chances in this game against a really improved Georgia team. I mean, Georgia's got a great team on paper this year. They're 9-1 straight up. They have some solid wins, and their only loss is against Marquette at a neutral site. Not a bad loss at all. They beat St. John's, Notre Dame, Grand Canyon, so some solid power schools, some tournament teams from a year ago. Also, Georgia Tech was a decent win, a rival on the road by 8 points. So Georgia's off to a great start. I like the chances for a blowout win here. They match up well against Buffalo shot quality-wise, and Georgia, a great rebounding team. Buffalo has really struggled there. One of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. Not much better on the defensive glass. So I look for Georgia, plenty of second chance opportunities, but also holding Buffalo to 1 shot per trip. This is a decent shooting team, but not so much from the perimeter. They're going to need a lot of threes in this one to keep up, in my opinion. I don't think they get them. So give me Georgia in this one. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we have Oakland and Cleveland State. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. I think this is a great buy low spot with Oakland. We got to remember this is a Grizzlies team that won the Horizon League last year and then was a 14th seed in the tournament and beat Kentucky in the first round in an upset, 80-67, then forced overtime against NC State in the second round. So they were a mini Cinderella run for Oakland. And here they are. They don't return a ton of their team from last year, but it's the same legendary coach in Greg Kampe. And, Oakland's played a gauntlet of a schedule this season. They're 3-6 straight up, but you got to look at the teams that they played. Boise State, Illinois, Kansas, Michigan State, most of those true road games, just a 1 neutral site game, that last one. Yes, they have some bad losses to Eastern Michigan and Youngstown State, but Oakland's played the 12th toughest schedule overall this season, the 4th toughest non-conference schedule in the country. So they're battle-tested. They're playing a Cleveland State team that I think is a little bit overrated, overvalued. It's on a 2-game win streak. They had to win over Green Bay, but fundamentally a team that turns the ball over left and right. They're not strong on the defensive glass. They take a lot of fouls defensively, and they're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. Shot quality-wise, this is not a great offense. I think Oakland takes advantage of that, and their defense sharpens up after a not-so-great performance against Michigan State, giving up those 77 points. I like Oakland in this one as a buy low spot with the Grizzlies. I'm going to take them on the money line, or you can take them with the spread as well. Next up, we have Charleston Southern and North Alabama. This one's 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, I think this is the best North Alabama team we've seen since the Lions joined the ASUN in the Division I, as there's been a lot of losing seasons in the last 5+ years, but this one already off to a winning start, and I think it'll end with a winning record and one of the better records in the ASUN and potentially compete for a conference championship in a wide-open Atlantic Sun Conference. But for me, while I like the Lions, and I think they're a balanced team, solid on both sides of the ball, I don't think they should be laying this many points, even at home, against a team like Charleston Southern. It's just a very unfamiliar role for a team like North Alabama. It's also a bit of a letdown spot after the big road victory over East Carolina. And for me, I think Charleston Southern is better than its current record. I think it continues to improve. It's also played a very tough schedule. The Bucs' 76th toughest schedule in Division I this year. They're the better rebounding team, and I think, honestly, those shooting numbers will improve as the season goes along, especially those free throw numbers. They're the second worst free throw shooting team in the country. I do think they get a lot better, though, as the season carries on. A guy like Kelly, who's shooting 46% from the free throw line, last year he was at 69% or 67% through 127 attempts. The year before that, he was at 66 and 71 the year before that. So 46%, it's miserable. I think it gets better as the season carries. And I like Charleston Southern to compete in this game, have a chance to win it outright, but I still think North Alabama wins. Charleston Southern covers. Next up, we have UT Martin taking on Morehead State. This one's going to be 7:30 Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. Yeah, I think UT Martin is a really volatile team, and I think we're going to see them lose games by crooked final scores like we've already seen at times this year. The game against Tennessee, 78-35, only scoring 35 points in that one, and we saw them go on that big losing streak, but I also think they'll be a dangerous dog at times. We saw at the beginning of the year a big win against Illinois State in first game of the season on the road. This is a UT Martin team that has 3 upperclassmen in the starting lineup, yet is one of the least experienced teams in terms of D1 experience in the country because a lot of their roster is made up from subdivision players from last year, Division II and JUCO players. And I think a lot of these players honestly have a lot of talent. I mean, this is a team that's shot quality-wise taking some low percentage shots, but they're a good offensive rebounding team, so they're getting those second chance opportunities. They take a ton of threes. Like I said, some of those are contested threes, not the best shots, but it makes them a really dangerous dog when they're cashing in on those shots, like we've seen in certain games. Like the game against Corpus Christi, for example. They were catching about 10, 11 points in that game. It was a 4-point final score because UT Martin kept up offensively. They were making some tough shots. They had 17 offensive rebounds, and it kept them in the game. I think that's going to be the case in this one against Morehead State. Morehead State is a solid rebounding team, but they give up some easy buckets. I think UT Martin takes advantage of that, and we just saw UT Martin go score for score with Alabama State recently in a 103-93 final score at overtime. It was an unfortunate result because UT Martin was covering with about 3 seconds left in that game. They hit the game-tying bucket to force overtime, and then we know overtime is where dogs go to die, and they lost that game by 10, but they were still very competitive in that game. I think they're competitive in this one, have a chance to win it outright. Next up, we have New Orleans and Texas. This one's going to be a 8 p.m. Eastern start time on ESPN+. New Orleans covered for us at the beginning of the season when they played Kansas State. And it was a pretty ugly game, 89-65, but the Privateers were getting a lot of points, so they covered the final number, the closing number for us. At the time, that looked like a decent performance because Kansas State's been known to be such a strong program, but this season's actually not gone too well for the Wildcats. They're 6-4. We just saw them lose again to Drake on Tuesday. So maybe that cover wasn't as impressive, and now we've seen New Orleans really struggle with that 2-7 straight-up record. They have the upset win over Tulane, but we've also seen some really bad final scores. 31-point loss against Baylor, the most recent loss to Iowa, 104-57. I think we see a similar result in this game, and maybe in the middle between that game against Iowa and Texas' last game against Pine Bluff, which was 121-57. We know the Longhorns are not afraid to earn a blowout victory and a cover in a crooked final score like that, and I think they're the more talented team by far. I think they benefit from a matchup like this. I think that we'll see Texas own the glass, the offensive and defensive glass, do a much better job at taking care of the basketball. I think we see a lot of three-point attempts from Texas. They're not really known to take a ton of threes, but in that game against Pine Bluff, they shot 33 triples, and they made 17 of them for 57%. I don't know if the numbers are going to be that good this time around, but New Orleans has not done great against three-point shots this year, and Texas is the 12th best three-point shooting team in the country. I just think that we're going to see Texas near 100 points in this game, and it should be enough to cover the spread. And that's it. Those are the games for Thursday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium, and there is a link in the description. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.